I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land upon which this podcast is recorded, and I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging.
Dark mirror.
Dark mirror.
Dark mirror.
Dark mirror.
Dark Mirror with Jessica Ann.
It's me, your host, Jessica Ann, and I am super excited to share this conversation with you with the incredible Jax Faulkner. I saw a post of Jax's a couple of weeks ago, and honestly, the way that she articulated some of the nuances that can come into spiritual bypassing and how that impacts our personal authority inside our spirituality, it prompted me to want to have this conversation with her. That being said, I'm not new to Jax. I have been to some of her events in the past. She's an incredible community leader. If you are not familiar with her work, she is a shamanic facilitator, retreat leader, and teacher devoted to awakening embodied leadership through lived wisdom. Her platform is called Awaken. I'm going to make sure that all of her details are down in the show notes below. If you are not following along, make sure you do. This conversation, of course, we talk about the spiritual bypassing elements, but we also get into what actually is intuition and what is the role of the facilitator in 2026. What are we here to actually support our clients to do? So strap in. This episode is super spicy, and I'll see you on the other side.
For those listening that have never encountered your work before, how did you get started? Like, what is it that awakened you?
Ooh, what a great question. Thank you, first of all, for having me here. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the invitation to have these kind of conversations. These are the conversations that light me up. In fact, the only conversations that I want to have in my life right now. So thank you. I honestly don't know. I don't have a distinct answer. It's not something I was, I guess, looking for. I like anyone else on this big, beautiful, tumultuous journey of life, there's always this undercurrent question of what is my purpose and the journey that comes with that. Fortunately, I am always just open to responding to what's here. And sometimes it just doesn't make sense. And there's definitely been pivotal moments in my life in the last 10 years that have really directed me to be on this path. But that's always been a byproduct of hard moments. I guess when I say hard moments where I've had to really sit with the bigger question of who do I want to be in this moment? And therefore then, whether it's facing a hard conversation or removing myself from an environment or removing an environment from my life or, really the nuances of the behind the scenes that have resulted in an outcome, a repercussion or a ripple that has perhaps exposed me to a direction that I seem to be on now. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but I could say this happened or that happened, but all of it's happened.
It's one of those questions that it's so loaded, and I feel like, I don't know about you, but I feel like every time I answer a question like that, I'm going to probably tell a different version for the same reason of what you've just shared there.
Yeah.
I was just sort of framing to you before we jumped on that. For me, I really want to platform conversations around, because it's so simple for us as facilitators, as coaches, to kind of lose sight of the ripple effect. It's like we talk about the ripple effect, we talk about impact, and really on a day-to-day basis, what we're mostly facing off with is the person directly in front of us. But what I see, and part of why I want to have this conversation with you, is I see you are answering a bigger question. You're answering something that, as a collective, we're navigating. And so for you, how do you see your work solving a problem that we as a society, as a humanity, as a human species are facing?
I love to experience this all as, or even rather than solve it, evolve from it. That's been such a big theme for me right now, is if we could literally just skip this part that we've been recycling over and over and over again and really as a facilitator and leader, taking responsibility of how we have perpetuated this very undercurrent vibe of returning to the same place over and over and over again, and perhaps contributing to the same problems and challenges that as a society, as particularly in our industry, that we see over and over again, that frankly I'm done with. I'm tired, I'm bored, it's the same challenge over and over again. Therefore, how am I contributing to that? And what haven't I been looking at and seeing? And it really does come down to the narrative around healing and the nuances of how I continue to perpetuate that in every word I speak, in every belief that I have in a space, and how I enter a space, how I hold a space. Therefore, then has me asking a question: is holding a space here what I'm meant to be doing, or is it moving the space? Is that a nuance around resolution and evolution that has me in the middle, tired of this resolution and then solving the same problem over again? Is the attention that I'm pouring into that actually keeping us where we are as a whole? And therefore, then how can I shift it to evolution dialogue, evolution perspective, and what could that look like? And that is where my body of work has landed me right now, because of the gift of noticing the cyclical nature of a narrative and a dialogue that kind of continues over. It's like that phrase, right? If
We're going to very elegantly pretend that didn't happen, but we had a technical difficulty. Jax was just sharing about how we're perpetuating these same cycles and kind of coming back to asking the same questions. And part of how your body of work is really looking at what it looks like to evolve and to move a space rather than to just hold it.
Yes. And it's like that phrase, I'm not sure if we got this, but it's that dichotomy of keeping humanity sick so we can keep fixing them. It's a dichotomy, and it's not what I'm here for. And I feel that in my gut. It's not what I'm here for. I don't feel that I'm here to perpetuate that dialogue. So therefore, then the question, rather than make it wrong, how can I effectively evolve my own participation in it as a facilitator? How can I look at everything that I'm doing, everything that I'm thinking, and ask different questions? Because that, I feel, is what evolution-based facilitation is versus resolution-based, which is, rather than having the answer, is asking different questions. Questions like, what if we weren't ever allowed to use the word rebirth and death regarding a full moon ever again? What could be possible on a trajectory? Or what else is the moon capable of? Or our relationship to the moon capable of, if we were to cancel common words that we're just used to repeating over and over again? And that's not me taking the piss. That's just me asking a question of what else is there available for us in this point of time.
Yeah, I love that. Just becomes, it's like that metaphor. I've heard it used a fair few times about the mum that's cooking the pot roast, and she sees like the daughter's standing there and she cuts an end off each end of the pot roast. And the daughter says, like, well, why do you cut the ends off the pot roast, mum? And she said, well, I don't actually quite know. It was just something that your grandmother did. And so grandmother happens to be there, brings her into the kitchen. It's like, well, why are you cutting off the ends of the pot roast? She's like, oh, I don't know. It's just something that my grandmother did. Oh, my mother did. And then great grandma happens to be there. And so she comes into the kitchen and she's like, well, why are we cutting the ends off the pot roast? Well, I once had a pan that was too small. So we just used to cut the ends off. And that's why we did it.
Wow. Wow. How cool is that? I love that analogy.
Because, yeah, I do feel like what you're saying, it's so true. We take so much on face value. So one of the things that I also really want to look at is this, as you said, it's the dichotomy of keeping humanity sick in order to be able to heal them. How do you sort of see this playing out beyond the facilitation space?
Oh, everything. The micro equals the macro. in all senses of the word. It plays on a version of bypassing. And the bypassing is something that I feel like we really need to mature from, because
Yeah.
the bypassing it's something that I'm feeling very passionate about and feel very passionate about is if it's not tangible, if it's not practical, it's not it. And when I say that, I mean from a space of this era of which has been such a magical era for us. And I see humanity as eras, right? There's so many eras, and this is an easy era. This is not even a difficult one. We've been through worse. So we can move through this one where we've gone from being so mental in terms of the way we've been directed and the way that we've made decisions in the industrial age. And then we've really brought through this manifestation age where it's all vibrational, and then the manifestation and your vision and having your vision. And then now it's time to really bring them all together. And rather than separate two, it's like, okay, you can have a vision, but if you're not going to take the action required, that vision won't come to life. You can dance as much as you like, you can money dance as much as you want, but if you're not going to take responsibility for your human moves, for your life, I'm sorry, it's not it. And I feel like we have a very huge responsibility in that. And this is how it affects the whole. It leaks everywhere. There's just where we're giving too much power to sources outside of ourselves. It's historical. It's historical. And it frankly pisses me off because we're not taking full responsibility, therefore disengaging from our sovereign authority and autonomy as a living force on this planet. We're not taking responsibility. We're blaming a text that we've read that is historical. We're blaming the characters in that text because of what they said 3,000 years ago, or where it's the blame or responsibility is placed elsewhere except for self. And that's a problem. That's a big problem. And it starts with us as facilitators. It really does start with us. And so it has been such a big calling for me right now too. I don't like to use the word call it out, but I like to bring it to the surface.
And I feel like this is a perfect segue for us to talk about the post that had me contact you to have this conversation. Someone that does follow your work anyway. I loved how clearly you articulated when someone says, if they're hearing, source told me to, or my guides told me to say X, Y, and Z, that we're kind of feeding into the same issue. So I know that you are a deeply intuitive, connected human. So how has your relationship with, I guess, extra physical or interdimensional beings evolved in light of your relationship with your work?
Mm-hmm. So for me, oh wow, the evolution has been huge. Like I've definitely been in that category myself. And the impact of that, again, it's just completely disempowering. I've seen it. I've done it myself where I have just not taken responsibility. And I don't say that in a way of demising it. It's more of I didn't realize the impact of it. And therefore then having to shift my own relationship to it. And, I'm not, I myself have downloads, and I believe in God, and I believe in spirit, and I believe and I believe in the conversation that I can have with a source outside of myself. But when it comes to the decision to bring to life or to take action, there is no autonomy on an outside source in deciding whether that happens or not. That's definitely a me thing. That is, it's me taking responsibility. So if I do this, I chose that.
Yeah.
It's like any idea. An idea is from, where does an idea come from? To pause on the idea or to give life to an idea. That's the decision base that we make. It's not outside of the concept of receiving or experiencing, having a vision or an idea, but it's taking full responsibility for what happens with that and not, or the taking full responsibility is like spirit says I shouldn't. It's like, no, you don't want to, or you're scared. I'd rather someone say to me, I don't like you, versus I a spirit told me I'm not aligned with this, right? Just tell me you're triggered by me. I'd rather that. I'd rather grounded honesty, and I'd rather be a voice for grounded honesty and that transparency from a place of just, this is just what it is. Like, I'm taking responsibility for it. I don't like this. I like this. I love this. I hate this. I feel uncomfortable with you, rather than saying the ancestors said it's not my time. What? Where is that exactly? Where are you in this? Where are you in this? Because you're the one that's here. If it's you that's saying that you're not ready, perfect. And if we can perpetuate the safety in that and normalizing that, we can really make an impact and an influence that really brings us all to that place of taking responsibility for everything.
It's a massive one. I feel like it's an interesting, and I've definitely gone through this evolution myself. It's like that experience of being defaulting to one moral authority, to replacing it to a spiritual moral authority, to then coming to a point of maturity and starting to realize, where am I inside this?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of comes back to that larger question, like, what does it actually mean to be self-directed? Like, how do we then be a person that is connected to all of this infinite wisdom through our intuition, but ultimately be a sovereign person?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's definitely firstly, the first step is to actually notice where we're doing that ourselves, in our own life, in all areas of our life. It always starts with us, and it's such a personal journey. Again, I don't have a judgment on this. I just see how it's not, it's disempowering. It's disempowering for self. It's disempowering for the whole. And everything starts at the micro level. So essentially, it really does start with going, hang on, okay, where do I give my power away to a source that's not touchable? That's not
Yeah.
me. That is not me. That's the first question. It's a very honest question. And then in our day to day, I know I feel like it sounds really simple, but it sounds really, is that enough to make an impact? If it's not enough for a small step to make an impact, we'll never make the large ones.
Yeah.
And I hear it a lot in a lot of people. A lot of people will say, like, I know I'm here for big things, but what if we're just here for the small things? What if we could just bring it back to the small things, because the small things equate to the big things. So rather than try and be large outside of our honest moment, it's just coming back to the moments and being honest. It's rather than being in our truth, be truthful. There's so many nuances, and it requires the pause, and it requires the softness, and it requires the silence, and it requires the self-reflection. I feel like we are because of this timeline that we all chose to be here, it's a very fast timeline, very fast. There's a lot of bigness very fast, and we're exposed to big very fast. So therefore, then we thrust ourselves into the big very fast and lose who we are in the process. We lose our essence. We lose our values. We lose that solid structure and substance of a standard that we haven't had a chance to really satiate of ourselves, because everyone's in a rush to get nowhere fast.
I resonate with that deeply. I feel like any of those things that so often like I talk a lot about the will to power. It's like there is this personal drive to explore our limits, to be fully expressed, to allow that evolution to take place. And often that does come from the pursuit of influence or whatever it might be. But ultimately, I see a lot of those things as an amplifier of those foundations, those very little things that you're talking about. It's like whenever, if we can't master the micro, it's like add the macro, and all we notice is all the, we've got all those cracks projected in 4K, so
Yes.
it's like, wow, it's like billionaires are really dysfunctional. Are they? Or did they just have amplification of something that didn't actually have its own foundation to begin with?
Yeah. Yep.
So when it comes to your work, I'd love for you to share a little bit more around, like, so obviously I'm aware of your facilitation training. Like, what is it that you're gifting your practitioners in terms of helping people master the micro?
Slowing it down. I'm very passionate. And I when I say passionate, it feels like if there's no other direction for me. There's nothing I desire outside of the 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 space of honesty and grit. Grit is a big word. And so, for me, it's really unveiling the and unveiling the illusions and really forecasting it for what it is, these illusions of attainment, these illusions of scaling, these illusions of, the rise. Because what I feel it does, it disconnects us from nature's very organic process of expansion. And so I'm very much a teacher or a guide or whatever you want to call it. I'm really just an ally that's going to go, hang on, don't take a step there first. We've got to stop here. If you're having a disagreement with your mum, let's look at that first before you go over there and start that project. Or, it is really the ground roots aspect of life itself, rather than, if I have a client that has I was going to write a post about this, or I did start writing a post about this, but it's rather the behaviors behind the scenes, like avoidance or maybe ghosting in the inbox, or kind of looking at those first before getting anyone on a stage. My job is not to get you famous. My job is not to get you paid. That's not my priority. My job is mastery on the grassroots level. And if we are ignoring grassroots level, we're ignoring grassroots relationships, relationship to self, relationship to others, relationship to life, relationship to everything. If it doesn't feel neutral, if we're not having big conversations around that, what is the point of anything? All we're doing is projecting the exact thing that we're here to shift and change. So that is where I'm like, there is no moving me from that place. Just the grassroots and neutralizing and moving from there, as opposed to getting you somewhere that you're not ready for, because you'll get eaten alive. Leadership requires grit, requires hard conversations. And I would feel just to have people or clients or students get to stage and not have those foundations. I truly believe that our work together in the spaces that I do, I'm not here to help them succeed. I'm here to help them fail. And be there with them during that. So we strengthen that muscle, strengthen the muscles that matter the most, as opposed to getting them somewhere fast.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. The metaphor that's sort of coming to my mind is like, I used to be a PT. I used to bodybuild, and one of my first injuries was because of poor muscular recruitment. And what I realized is that I didn't actually know how to even though I was doing the movement, I wasn't actually using the correct muscles. And so I ended up with the hip injury that's kind of a phantom one, but it's still with me till this day. But one of the things that I found most effective was actually learning Pilates. It's like actually learning about the stabilizer muscles, the micro muscles, and the patterns of recruitment to achieve the thing.
Yep.
So am I kind of going off on a tangent there? Is that sort of
No,
track
I love
across to
that. I love that, right? Because if you think about it, if you're going from, I used to, well, very short time bodybuild as well. And the thing is that what it takes, I have such respect for the mental shift it takes and emotional maturity it takes to go from such a big action, like lifting weights and going heavy, to then going, hang on for a sec, woo up, I'm going to do this very, doesn't look like much workouts. It kind of like, it's like an ego, punch. It's like I've gone from this to these little movements, but what it takes to actually do that is so respectable, as opposed to no, I've got to go hard or go home, that kind of vibe. So yeah, 100%. It is like that. It takes a lot to, and I'm so blessed with the most amazing students and clients that actually crave it, that crave the mastery aspect, that are like, yeah, I actually want to become great, not be seen as great. I just want to become great in my whole life, not just on stage or not just in a room, in an event. I want to become great.
So, I know you mentioned the word grit. Like I feel one of the ways that I often interact with people in general is that I feel what they are throwing behind the words that they are saying. So to me, grit is almost like a sigil for you. It's the tip of the spear of a much larger body of understanding and a much deeper relationship. So tell me about grit.
Mm. Whew, grit for me feels rebellious. It feels loyal to, it feels loyal to a value system that only I understand, but I also feel that it's on a collective scale, a very solid value system. And I feel like the grit is the willingness to be a stand for something just that is, for me personally, that feels really solid in an ethos that feels so grounded in humanity. And grit in itself, so that's for me personally, grit in itself would be for anyone to be in and around conversations, in and around an industry, in and around an environment, and have the capacity and the grit to go, no, that's not, that is not what feels right for me. And then taking action in accordance to what pulls them, regardless of fear tactics or, anything like that. So for example, well, you've probably saw last year was was such a huge year where I was, I wouldn't say targeted, maybe you could say that, but I experienced 2 occasions where uh, accusations were thrown at me that led to legal ramifications. And they both of them really influenced this version of grit that I'm talking about, because there's all of these different versions of stories, but I know what's true and real, authentic and honest for me, and I stood by that. And even in the threat of the experiences, I stood by that. And I was soft in that. I was firm in that. I didn't fight in that. I was just like, no, like this is what is here for me. And that took grit, because grit meant for me, a value is, I don't want to fight. I'm not here for the fight, but I'm here to stand true to what feels right for me, but I don't need to fight you. And then that took grit, because I am from a Filipino background and we love to fight. The sandal was a weapon in my household. So, does that make sense? I'm not sure if I made any sense with that answer.
Oh, 100%. Like, that's part of why I wanted to circle back to grit, because to be truthful, the way that we use the word grit, the first thing that comes to mind for me is Nutri-Grain adverts. Says a lot about my childhood. But like the Iron Man, you just got to
Yes.
grit, that kind of. But I could feel from the way that you were saying it, the relationship that you are holding to grit in a way is kind of paradoxical.
Mm.
It's like one of my old mentors talked about the idea of developing rest ethic. So all of us are so preoccupied with work ethic, but how good are you at actually resting? And even to your point around grit being something around you actually softening, but still holding your center.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like having the discipline to let go.
Yeah. And to hold hold high a value that feels it's yet to be embodied. It's a concept, but it feels so advanced. But my body is not used to that. My history is not used to this concept. So the grit was like, how much am I willing to hold that, to embody this while it feels so deeply unfamiliar? Because I want to fight. I want to hurt you in my body, in my reactiveness. But my value, my advanced value, the value that I feel, and that's the thing, and that's where we have this value that we feel it. It's there. It's that future. We all encoded with it. I believe in that. But how willing are we to be that when it's the most unreasonable action to take?
It's massive. I feel like this is something I'd love your take on, actually. It's a little bit of a tangent, so let's take this baby off road. But say, for example, I remember when it used to be a really like a recurring joke how every time somebody won Miss Universe, they'd say like, "What's your vision for the world?" And it would be peace.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's just consistently
Every time.
peace. So what is it that you feel? Do you feel it is maybe an inherited idea, a bit like what we were touching on earlier, or do you think that there is something inside the human structure that ultimately recognizes that surrender is the way?
Yes. I do believe that. I believe that it's innate. I believe it's innate in every creature. There's this harmonious, let's call it harmony, and a yearning for harmony, an innate yearning for harmony. It's just there, and we experience it. We experience it in our lives, but innately we wish for it for everyone. I do believe that. Yeah.
It's interesting to me, like in terms of if harmony is ultimately the first, the yearning, what is it that keeps us trapped in these cycles of disharmony?
The adventure. I don't believe we'll ever be harmonious. It'll only be an inside experience. And that is what we're all here for. I feel another bypass, in fact, is to be so focused on harmony for everyone else whilst disharmony exists inside of us. Because I do believe that when there is harmony inside of us, there's harmony everywhere. We just don't see it. There's no, we see disharmony and we see the lesson in it, or we see the value in it. It just shifts our perspective. So it is an inside experience that I feel we're all here for innately, but to think that it's going to happen in the whole world, no, it's boring. That's boring. That's boring for us. We didn't come here for that. We're here, we go, we come back for the disharmony to experience the journey of harmony within us.
So the idea of, we don't really appreciate something unless we've had the contrast in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like I have experienced moments of feeling like I'm on the other side, and it's boring.
Let's shake this
Wow,
shit up.
it's so amazing and it's so euphoric and it's so beautiful and it's just white. It's like in the sense of the word and the feeling itself, it's just white. And we're like, we're here for color. We're here for color. So the experience of it is, I guess, that it is that it's that reflective thing where we wish for it for the world. And then we get to an age, I do believe that we do get to an age of realizing that I actually don't care about everyone else, everyone else's harmony. Really? Do I want to change the world? Not really. I want to love the world for exactly how it is. That's what I want. I want to love it and see it for what it is and the value. And I don't want to fight with what is. I want to appreciate it and see where I am in it all and how I can influence, contribute to the environments around me. Because I feel like we can get so caught up with impacting everyone else whilst negatively impacting the environments around us. And I can see that happening a lot, especially in our industry, is we were so caught up in impacting everyone else. We ghost people. It's a value of mine that I've had to really clean up over the last few years, but I see it happening a lot where there's this behavior behind the scenes. It's like, oh, that's not important. That's not the big impact. So I'm just going to leave that over there. It's like, no, that is the big impact. All of these little things is the big impact.
That to me is almost like a balm against, like, in contrast to a lot of the conversations we have, particularly because there is an interesting juxtaposition that kind of occurs in our space. It's like simultaneously talking about how do we support people to live lives true to themselves at the same time of a culture of radical entrepreneurship. And a lot of our models for entrepreneurship are about individuality. It's like that sense of what's best for the person, not necessarily what's best.
Yeah.
And so as you speak to that idea of seeing how each of these little impacts ultimately become the big impact, how do you make decisions? Like, how do you decide what is where you want to spend your time?
For me, I treat my every day as if I'm my inbox. I'm the only one in there, and I respond to all messages, all of that stuff, because I think, well, what is my job? Like, what is my role if it's not this? If it's not this, then what really is it? Because if I'm on a stage and I'm talking about connection, and I'm encouraging connection, I'm encouraging unity, and I'm doing that, what does that even mean? If I'm encouraging community, what is community if I'm doing that? Again, it keeps bringing back to, like, of course it's important to me in every moment, because that's what I stand for. So who am I if I feel, for me, it would be performance if I was out there saying community and da-da-da, and then not valuing that and not valuing people's time or not valuing every moment, every energy exchange. Like, who am I really then? So that's how I see it, and how I behave with it, because the micro always equals the macro.
Preaching to my soul. I'm trying to almost play devil's advocate here because you're affirming my biases. Because truthfully, I feel like right from the get-go with my business, I wanted every single step of the journey to be in alignment with the experience I wanted people to have.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, what if, I often share with my students, I say, like, 95% of people are only ever going to interact with you with your content.
Mhm.
It's like, realistically, like 95% of people are never going to pay you money.
Yep.
I said, so are you actually showing up as an embodiment of your message, even at that tippy top front end interaction?
Mhm.
And So to me, as you speak to that, I'm like, that to me is the work. It's like, how are you living
Yeah.
the message?
Yeah.
Uh, so one of the things that I suppose some of the people listening may be thinking is like, it kind of sounds slow. Kind of sounds
Right.
slow. Why would I want to go slow if I could go fast?
Fast to where though?
Mm.
Fast to where exactly? We need to look at, where is this fast? Where is this? Where are we going so fast? If this is not, if this is not it, if this is not it, where is it? Because every other moment is so fleeting. And if a moment of just substantial gesture and that feeling in yourself of being like a very integral person, if that's not it, we'll never get anywhere. You will never feel it. We'll never feel this elusive success. It's not there. It's not going to be in the money, because I guarantee it, like we said before, the foundations aren't there. It will crumble because you have no identity, because you've been rushing and so fast, and then you have no respect. So if respect isn't a goal, if respect is too slow, you'll never get anywhere fast. I want everyone to respect me because I respect them. And I want to meet them in the street and go, hey, like, hi, and not be like, oh my God, I didn't respond to them, or I didn't, like, what is it? What are we doing otherwise? The greatest compliment we could have as an entrepreneur is they are exactly who they say they are.
Yeah, I love that. It was funny. I remember I asked one of my clients once, she said to me, well, you say what you do what you say you'll do. And at the time, I was a bit taken aback. I'm like, wow, that's not a exactly glowing indictment of my work. But then I sat there and thought about it. I said, actually, no, it is.
Yes.
It's like, I didn't take you off to the heights of the highest highs, and we didn't, invoke the angels and sing on top of a hill, you know, because I didn't promise that. But it was, I hear what you're saying. It's like, um, but it's so much so that the congruence, I think, more than anything.
In this world
Knowing
right
that
now, that's how we stand out. That's how we stand out.
Mm.
Because of the landscape right now, the best thing we can do is ground roots everything.
Ugh. I know that you and I swim in somewhat similar waters. What does the process of almost do you find that there is a kind of phases of deconditioning people to a lot of that rhetoric when they're coming into your reality, like into your spaces?
Interestingly, I feel there's definitely that, but there's also this standard of willingness already. It feels like they're like, again, it's that intuitive, instinctual part of someone that goes, I have this funny feeling about where I've been going, and I love what you're standing for. I'm here for that. And so they're already coming into the space kind of wanting to be deconditioned, because there's an element inside of them in their value system that lights up when they feel my value system.
We've spoken a little bit about intuition, and I know that people that are listening to this are probably very intuitive anyway, but I'd be curious around if intuition isn't guides, if it isn't our ancestors, if it isn't all of these things that we put outside of ourselves, what is intuition?
Intuition is I would say, an instinct. It's an instinct, like an animal instinct, as animals have. Like bees have this really incredible, wow, they just fascinate me, bees. But I really believe it's instinct. I do believe that we are connected to somewhat of let's say, a contract that we've made before we've come here, or some sort of destiny. And it's it's a part of our innate compass that kind of gives us the, yes, no. And so in terms of that, I feel like it's an inbuilt system that responds to the external reality.
Mm, I like that definition because I think that is somewhat of a rite of passage, getting into to understanding what that instinct is. It's like putting things that are outside of ourselves as confirmation of something that we're so deconditioned to not listen to. Welcome back.
I'm so sorry about that. I don't know what is happening with it. Maybe we're just, our transmission's so strong when internet's like,
Yeah, we're talking about intuition, and I think that the external confirmation being a pathway for us to learn our relationship with that instinct, because from a very young age, our society has kind of abandoned a lot of that instinct. Civilization has looked like disconnection from a lot of the natural order. But I wanted to make this less of a meta conversation, because I really wanted to make sure I asked you about the philosophy, as I said, for me, listening to you speak to it, I feel like I can so readily connect the dots with how this shows up in terms of translating this into facilitating, working with people. What is it that you feel is the ripple effect of this current of evolution that you're so clearly holding, this relationship with grit? How is this rippling into what your students are doing and applying with the people in front of
feels like I'm planting a new seed
you?
of a grounded civilization, a calmer civilization, a civilization of mastery in the sense of basic human skills. Because right now, what is very obvious is that on our discussion with intuition and how it's like, oh, people check in with this, and I feel like what we're missing is a deep sense of self-trust to be able to just handle anything. We've lost this. We've disconnected from our capability, and rather than making decisions based on or remembering our capability, we're making survival decisions on moving forward. I won't move forward because what if I die? Or I need to survive. We've thwarted the definition of survival. In fact, we've basically taken the piss out of the definition of true survival, especially those of us that are in the first world. And so therefore then it's grounding in a self-trust of if we're still alive to this day, we're good. So let's move on and do really cool things and just take steps forward that excite a part of us that knows we're good. We can handle anything. And I feel that in itself, rather than going, I've got to heal this first, and I go, no. The journey heals you. You know that already. We've experienced it. Can we just take the glasses off that and just go like, we're ready now? So this body of work I feel like it is, I'm very patient with it because it is a slow process. It is a slow process. I'm not here to toot or piss in pockets. I'm not here to go, hey, yeah, I'm going to get you real rich, real quick. Why? That doesn't feel fulfilling for me. It doesn't feel substantial in a very meaningful mission for me. Let's just get basic human skills. Let's clean all that up. Have you able and capable and excited to look at people in the eyes, to be honest with your words, but also compassionate, to see the bigger picture, to remember your capability, to therefore remind others of their capability, to remember your importance, so therefore then remind others of their importance. One thing that really landed for me many years ago was, and probably why I have, the events and retreats that I am blessed to facilitate and host are, they're always full and they're abundant. It's because I have an ethos that I live by, which is gather your people and remind them of their power. That's it. Nothing else. There's nothing else around that. I don't care for anything else except for my job is to gather our people and remind them of their power. So therefore, if I can influence other facilitators with that ethos, that in itself, the energetics of that in itself is so disattached to these illusions of attainment. It's more of a, let's go. I've got work to do. I've got work to do. And it feels fulfilling. I'm going to gather my people and remind them of their power.
It's interesting, the path of attainment. I feel that so many of us have confused the destination with the vehicle, and that permission to come back to basics and recognize that whether or not you're doing it today, tomorrow, next week, supporting people to remember their power, the vehicle's only ever going to just bring more people into that exact same thing that you're doing right now.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you had one message for the people that do feel called to support others, that do feel like they want to evolve the way that humanity is relating with not only themselves but each other, what is it?
My message would be that your feeling is correct. You are here to help others. That is absolutely you don't have to prove yourself in any way, shape, or form. And go do that. Go do that. Do that with your neighbor. Do that with your family. Do that in every moment of your life. Don't separate impact. Don't separate the definition of impact to something that's later or out there, because nature has got your back. Nature will reflect to you, will perpetuate what you're perpetuating in your everyday life. So if you're waiting for an audience, you'll be waiting forever. If you're waiting for the income, you'll be waiting forever. You'll never be satisfied. So take responsibility where you are satisfied on a day-to-day basis. Move your needle forward in the day-to-day basis rather than waiting for the big highlight jump, because it's never going to happen.
Yeah, resonate with that, the moving yardstick.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about facilitator training. I know you've got one coming up in May.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is juicy. So I don't actually have a clue. It's basically everything that I've just shared. So this is going to sound very, very strange, considering that we've definitely just spoken about the outside and all of that. My dreams are very prophetic, and how I have created everything, or everything that I've launched. I have a now belief. It took a while for me to believe that this is actually how I operate. But every single time I have an idea and I'm like, yum, let's go, I'll launch it. I'll launch it within 5 minutes. I don't stop. I don't question. I don't ask. I don't go, oh, is this the right thing? I don't do it. I just trust it. And if it's not it, I'm happy to just get it. I don't have an attachment with my ego. I just don't care. I'm just like, all right, let's go. And then what happens is that this magnet starts to happen and students start to come in. But each student therefore then starts to co-create their needs, their energy starts to co-create the experience itself. So in essence, this, what I feel very passionate about with the facilitator experience, it's not so much a training. I'm not teaching anyone how to speak, or I'm not teaching anyone how to be a great speaker. It's rather the experience of becoming the volume. And rather than speaking to ears or speaking to an audience, how do we impact the pulse of a space? How do we impact the pulse of every space we're in? And so it's it's an experience of for facilitators who have this feeling inside them that that's what more is, not more numbers or more stages or more. It's more, there's like this innate more of impact from turning up an instinctual volume to leave and impact people from a place of pulse that moves them from that place. Like I said, we're no longer holding the space, we're moving the space. And so how do we do that? So that's what the facilitation training is. It's actually interesting because last night I had a dream, my prophetic dream. Don't even know any, like, I'm like, whoa, that was weird. I had to Google it today. Hermetic spot in time. Hermetic spot in time. That's what came up in my dream. And so I Googled it and I was like, of course it is. So now it's this monumental spot in time. And I believe that with this and everything that I do, it's a monumental spot in time. It's like I can see the needle moving a different direction. So that's what that is. Yeah, it's an in-person experience in the Sunshine Coast from sunrise to sunset. and the in-between is a mystery.
Juicy. If you guys want to check that one out, I'll make sure it is in the show notes so you can go and bask in Jax's gloriousness and your own gloriousness in the process. Just as a side note, in terms of the prophetic dreams, and because I know a lot of people that follow my work are interested in that, one of my books that I would recommend, and if you want to check it out, if you're a book human like me, Eric Wargo's The Long Self. Eric Wargo's Something Dreaming in the Long Self, precognitive dreaming. So basically looking at a lot of the science behind that, as well as some of the metaphysics around why we have precognitive dreams.
I love that. I do. I will actually look that up because that is how I operate. The prophetic dreams is what everything. I'm like, okay, we're going to do that. Let's go.
Yeah, it's when you unlock that, it does. There's no debate for me anymore. Like obviously, I'd had a lot of transcendent experiences prior, but dreaming and dream work for me was okay. I can't unsee this now. The genie is out of the bottle.
Oh, I've got goosebumps. Yes. That's a yes.
Thank you so much for joining us, love. This has been epic. Any closing thoughts?
No, I'm just grateful. I really enjoy our conversation. Thank you for facilitating this caliber of conversation. More, please. That's just, amazing. So thank you so much.
Thanks, love.